This review is really late, but I wanted to get my thoughts together about this series. I've watched it a few times and I've really let my thoughts settle. Firstly, let's answer a big question. Is this series good for non-Critical Role fans? And without a doubt, the answer is yes. I've watched this series multiple times with many non-Critical Role fans. I've watched it with many non-D&D fans as well. All of them, and I mean all of them, have liked this series. You do not need a Critical Role or D&D background to understand what is going on. Honestly, a lot of Critical Role fans are dramatically overestimating the amount of knowledge that you need in order to watch this show. It all makes sense even if you have zero background on the previous campaign or D&D mechanics. But now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of this review, what do I think overall about this show? And if I'm being honest, the Legends of Vox Machina is a good show. It's a really good show, but it's not great. However, it has all the potential to be great. This is like the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Dragon Prince, or Castlevania. It sets a strong foundation for the rest of the show, but this season itself is not great. It's very good, but it's not great. Firstly, the story. It follows the Briarwood arc fairly well from the original Critical Role campaign. It is different in some areas, but it's still good. We have to all understand that this is a different medium. A live 4-hour improv D&D game is much different from a scripted animated feature. But I think that they kept the integrity of the show. Now, from here on out, I'm going to be talking about the spoilers as I'm giving my review, so if you don't want any spoilers, click away now. But scenes like the introduction of the Briarwoods, Cassandra's betrayal, Orthax trying to consume Percy, all of these moments are in fact great moments. And I won't lie, there are definite improvements. Now, I always loved Keyleth throughout Campaign 1, but even I will admit sometimes it was rough to watch her character. But Keyleth, in my opinion, is one of the best parts in the Legends of Vox Machina. She works so much better in this medium. Pike as well works really well. However, there are some holdups with some characters. I know a lot of people that I was with really did not like Scanlan and Vex, but I trust the writing team because it is clear that these characters are growing and expanding. Scanlan did start off as kinda the worst. Also, sometimes there are just a lot of characters to try to keep track of. We are introduced to so many people in the Legends of Vox Machina, and for non-campaign watchers and kind of for campaign watchers alike, it's tough to look at all these characters and remember them, especially if a character is only in maybe 2 or 3 scenes. Now, for Campaign 1 watchers, we know the significance of some of these characters, like Allura. But the show treats them with a lot of weight that they haven't set up yet. So that's another problem with the story. And we should probably talk about the elephant in the room, which is the opening 2 episodes. Many have stated that they are the weakest of the entire series. And you know what? That's actually correct. The first 2 episodes are the weakest, but I won't lie, they are actually the most impressive. It is a Herculean writing task to introduce the entire party of characters, set up Vox Machina, all of their origins, and then propel a story forward and to make it interesting. Yeah, they're 7 out of 10 episodes, but I am still wildly impressed by them. They provide the necessary foundation for all the Legends of Vox Machina. But that's not even the most impressive thing about the story. Let's discuss pacing. The Legend of Vox Machina has an incredibly tight script. Every scene not only drives the plot forward, but also furthers character development. There is not a wasted second in The Legend of Vox Machina. Now, some fans have criticized the show for this rapid pacing, and it is not paced the same, again, as a 4-hour D&D game. It has to be paced differently. But for myself and non-Critical Role fans, just because it was paced quickly does not mean that we can't follow along the story. And there are beats, there are times for these dramatic and impactful moments. I point to moments like Keyleth healing Cassandra, Pike talking to the Everlight, Percy overcoming Orthax, or Delilah talking to the Whispered One. These are all very impactful moments where the pacing kind of slows down a bit and we can really live in the moment. The Legend of Vox Machina is smart. It knows when to slow down the pace of the story and knows when it has to speed up. There is very little downtime in this show. Everything is pulling double duty, sometimes triple duty. And because of that, yeah, it can feel a little bit fast, but I still think that the pacing is incredible. For me, the best paced animated series I have ever seen is Netflix's Castlevania. Followed closely behind is Arcane. I think The Legend of Vox Machina is right up there with them in terms of pacing. Now, you in the comments might feel differently, but I think that they did an outstanding job. I think the one place where it stumbles, though, is at the very end of the season. As soon as Vox Machina gets back, we immediately begin to transition into the start of the Chroma Conclave arc. And I think this is the one misstep. There is no time for the characters to breathe, and it felt like it's just shoehorned in there. I think we needed at least one episode to set up the political turmoil within the country and Uriel Taldore's decision to create the Tal'Dorei Council. I know some of my non-Critical Role watchers were caught really off guard by the ending. They were happy to see the dragons, but still, if you really wanted the cliffhanger, you could have just had the dragons beginning to take flight. But that's enough about pacing, because this is an animated series, so I would be remiss if I did not talk about the animation. And overall, it is pretty high quality animation with a few glaring gaps, specifically the CGI. I know for me, the CGI just didn't work in some areas. I can completely understand the undead horde because that would be a nightmare to hand animate. It just wouldn't be feasible to draw that many undead. But the dragon, Brimscythe, man, it just doesn't look good, which is kind of sad. The CGI just does not blend with the rest of the animation. And again, I understand the budget constraints, but it's just so obvious. It takes me out of the episode. And look, I'm someone who can let a lot of animation issues go. I'm not sitting there looking for faults in animation. Even if I notice something, if it doesn't take me out of the episode that I'm in, I'm fine with it. The CG dragons take me out of the episode every single time. So I hope in season 2 that they're able to at least improve the CGI for their dragons, or maybe just switch to 2D animation entirely for the dragons. Otherwise though, the animation is great. When the characters aren't fighting, the animation is just plain beautiful. Everything is smooth and crisp. And the non-CG fight scenes are incredible to look at as well. I'm talking the fights against the Wraiths, Professor Anders, and the Briarwoods both times. The final Briarwood fight was just stunning to look at. So overall, the animation is really good. It's just those few moments that I wish were a bit better. And now we have to talk about the villains. David Tennant brings Brimscythe to life so well, and I think he would have been the weakest antagonist if not for David Tennant's amazing voice acting throughout the first 2 episodes. But really, the main villains of this entire season are the Briarwoods and their cronies. Delilah and Silas are just incredible. Grey Griffin, who is just an incredible voice actress, does a spectacular job with Delilah. She is both evil and cunning and manipulative, but also sympathetic towards the end. You can see why she does the things that she does. And honestly, it's a perfect mix of script and voice actress in this show. Honestly, it's kind of an embarrassment of riches because I like all the villains, even the minor villains, so much that I wish I could spend more time with them. I wish this show explored them more. Characters like Professor Anders or Duke Vedmeyer just come and go, it seems, very quickly. I wanted the show to explore those characters more, but sometimes it feels like they are introduced so quickly and are gone so fast that there's just this wasted potential there. Now, the fact that they still stick in my mind, given the relatively small amount of screen time they had, is a testament to the show, I think. But as a fan, I'm still left wanting just a little bit more. And obviously we have to talk about the voice acting, which, to put it bluntly, is some of the best I've ever seen in an animated series. The cast is absolutely stacked with stars. There is not one bad performance, which is incredible. And I've seen some individuals saying that the voice acting is not good and we're just not watching the same show. I'll use this analogy. The best artists are not those that can draw photorealistically. They're the ones who can add their own style to a painting. Van Gogh did not paint realistically. His art isn't photorealistic, but having that particular style is harder. Not every voice acting performance needs to be Shakespearean. All the voice actors bring their all to what is needed within this show. And of course, the main cast just hit it out of the park. They know their characters so well. They have lived in these characters for literally hundreds of hours. I mean, of course though, there are standouts. Ashley Johnson as Pike is incredible throughout the entirety of the series. Her delivery is always on point. Sam Riegel, although Scanlan is kind of despised by some, does truly inhabit the character. And of course, Marisha Ray as Keyleth is fantastic. And of course, the rest of the cast is fantastic in their characters as well. I just thought that these three were my personal standouts. And now let's talk about the community for a second. As of the time recording this video, The Legends of Vox Machina has a 100% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes and a 94% audience score. It is widely considered a good show. But the Critical Role community does have a tendency to bitch, whine, and complain. Look, bluntly, that's just what the critters do. And you know what? I'm here to defend those people. They have the right to put that opinion out there. If someone doesn't like a piece of media or content, yeah, they should be allowed to speak that. But that doesn't mean you should take the opinion of just one person. Doesn't also mean that you should take the opinion of the mob. Go watch this series for yourself and draw your own conclusions. Look, I'll readily admit, this is a series made for D&D fans. There are a lot of hidden things throughout this show, secrets and Easter eggs that you'll only pick up if you're a D&D fan or a Critical Role fan. But that does not mean that this show is unwatchable, far from it, for non-D&D and Critical Role fans. And this show is not hot garbage. Trust me, I've seen a lot of garbage animation. This is not it. The team truly worked hard to create a really outstanding animated show. I would not be surprised if it is not only nominated, but wins a few Emmys. So take the Critical Role fan reaction with a grain of salt. Yes, there are flaws with this animated show. It is a really good show. It is not great, but I truly do believe that as this series progresses, that it could reach that great status. Now that Castlevania is over, I think that The Legends of Vox Machina could be the next flagship adult animated fantasy series. I think its success is going to mean something in Hollywood. But let me know what you think. Did you like The Legends of Vox Machina? On a scale from 1 to 10, where would you rate it? And if you need another series to watch as you're waiting for season 2 of Legends of Vox Machina, may I suggest this video right here? And thank you for entering the dungeon.